In conclusion, I will deal with the two states of Russia and Poland in couple. In couple, first of all, because of the little time I think remains available for me, and then for another important reason. Both of these states have until 1989 united in the so-called Soviet bloc or communist bloc, and therefore until 1989 had all kinds of film production, albeit not full of the elements of heterogeneity similarities. In both these cinemas, in fact, until at least 1989, is clear and evident that even if we are films about the Nazis, do not talk at all about the Shoah. No, even less, the uniqueness of the Jewish genocide. In Russia, all the films until 1989 are the film of a phantom Holocaust, as defined by the historian Olga Gershenson in his book. It is no coincidence that in the only Russian telefilm of the 80 years dedicated to the World War II, The Eternal Call, this telefilm, in the only episode of the telefilm set during the Great Nazi deportations to the concentration camps, there was no talk at all of them about the Jews or about the Shoah. In Poland there are exactly not telefilms speaking about the Nazis and the Holocaust until 1989. It will be after 1989 in Russia. In Poland, we see also the production of the show which also speak of the Shoah and not just the anti-Nazi resistance and employment, but the Russian and the Poland presenting the difference between them. As for Russia, it is impossible not to mention the great leap made with the production of the TV serial Tiazeli Pezok, built in 2008. This telefilm showed the saga of a Russian Jewish family from the early 20th century until 1941. In the 15th and 16th episodes, we show us the heroic uprising in which all the Jewish inhabitants of the little village where the family lived, locked up in a ghetto by the Nazis from Nazi invasion in June 1941, are literally dying to get rid of the joke of Nazi like heroes with an army uprising. Needless to say, this show is evident to show a big reversal in Russian cinema, because if in the cinema of the United Soviet bloc was a partisan, one heroic patriot, but surely not a Russian Jew, here, with this serial, in 2008, we see it is like a TV show of Russian Jews are the first to take up arms and uprise their captors and their assassins. And not similar, but a very contrary thing happens in Poland with another big show. I am referring to Czas Honoru. The great Polish television production began in 2008 and at the time not still ended, yet despite 6th season and 7th season entirely devoted about the Warsaw uprising of August 1944. As early as the 3rd episode of the first season, the series takes us to the streets of the Warsaw ghetto, where we see Our Lady the terrible fate of the Jews in the capital of the Poland, and the first attempts and resistance we see in the from the second season. Nevertheless, what we see in this serial is a lot of visceral Polish anti-Semitism, even today after 70 years after the Holocaust. Because we see in the third season the introduction of the personage of the Major Sorokin, an agent of the Comintern, parachuted in Warsaw at the beginning of 1943. Actually, ruthless murderess was tasked to eliminate many members of the Polish resistance as possible by the order of Stalin. Is curious, it seems odd, but the caricature of this personage seems to follow several anti-Semitic leaflets post-era. Curious coincidence, this official is given in the show of the same name of a Soviet general Jew, which in some publication of the Polish anti-Semitic aftermath of the war was blamed to be among responsible for the massacre of Katyn. What a coincidence. In addition of all this, the serial shows us a curious leap of quail from the third season to the fourth season, passing directly to the period to show us the period immediately before the armed uprising in Warsaw in August 1944. So, nobody episode in this show is paid to the weeks of the heroic ghetto uprising and its liquidation in April and May 1943. It can be concluded that, curiously, while the former ex-Soviet Russia shows us even the heroic Jewish resistance to the Nazis and the uprising against the Nazi executioner. In contrary, in Poland, the films and the TV serials regress and speaks little of the Jews and the Holocaust, and sometimes while remaining silent about important events. Thank you very much at all.